Mutuse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to address this House. This being my inaugural address to the House, like many have done, I wish to thank my people of Kibwezi West for electing me to represent them here under Maendeleo Chap-Chap. Mr. Speaker, you notice that our party, Maendeleo Chap-Chap, is among the parties whose numbers are being contested, and therefore we have a greater interest than many in the current matter. Mr. Speaker, as a lawyer, I know legal arguments follow facts, and therefore it is important for us to lay the facts bare so that when you retreat to make your ruling, it will be as reasoned as possible. It has been insinuated by our friends under AZIMIO that Maendeleo Chap-Chap and other parties only jumped after His Excellency the President was declared. Nothing can be further from the truth. Mr. Speaker, I will be tabling before this House a letter that was written by my party, Maendeleo Chap-Chap, on the 20th of April, over 100 days before the elections to the Registrar of Political Parties, in which letter we requested the Registrar to supply us with the coalition agreement, the Constitution of AZIMIO Kenya, and the nomination and election rules. Mr. Speaker, as it were then, a country that was run through dictatorship, a country that thought that the system is everything, and a country that disregarded the Constitution, the letter was not replied to. Mr. Speaker, I will also table before this House another letter that we wrote to the Registrar of Political Parties on the 27th of April 2022, in which letter we requested the Registrar to find it we communicated the decision of the party, the organs of the party, to be removed from the AZIMIO One Kenya Alliance. Instead, the Registrar told us that she was under instructions from above, as it were, that we cannot exercise our democratic right to move out of the AZIMIO La Kenya. I will table the documents. Owing to that, Mr. Speaker, therefore, it is not factual, as has been insinuated, that Maendeleo Chap-Chap, under which I am elected and the member for Machakos was elected, moved from AZIMIO One Kenya Alliance after the elections, because the facts speak against. Mr. Speaker, again, after the elections, and noticing that the majority and minority determine how allocation of committees and leadership in this House is to be determined, we wrote a letter to you, the Speaker, our letter dated 26th of September, and which was received in your office on the 29th of September, in which we restated that our numbers, the two elected members, will be associated with the Kenya Kwanza coalition. Mr. Speaker, I will also table that letter so that it goes on record. Mr. Speaker, in the letter we enumerated the circumstances under which our party was forced, coerced, to join the AZIMIO Kenya coalition. And we did state that we did not find, and the circumstances under which we were coerced to join could not legally stand, and therefore we wish our numbers to be counted under Kenya Kwanza. The question that we'll be answering is, when I stand here as a member of parliament and say I want to be counted under Kenya Kwanza, can somebody else force me to be in another coalition that I do not want? Don't I have a right under the Constitution to decide where I want to be? Don't I have a right under the Constitution to say where I want to be? Mr. Speaker, it has been put to you. It has been put to you, Mr. Speaker. I do not want to restate the Constitution because it has been properly stated before you. Mr. Speaker, it has been put to you that rights have limitations, and indeed rights have limitations. But when you sit to determine the limitation for under Article 36, Mr. Speaker, I invite you to look at Article 24, which says the test for limitation of rights. To limit a right must be limited by a legislation, and that legislation must clearly state the right which is being limited. Mr. Speaker, in this case, our good friends are relying on limitation under the coalition agreement. The question you will ask yourself is, can a coalition agreement limit fundamental God-given human rights? When you sit, Mr. Speaker, determine that I, Mwengi Mutuse, under Maendeleo Chap-Chap, and my colleague, Honorable Caleb, wish to be associated with Kenya Kwanza, and that's where our numbers should be counted. And we cannot be forced to be in a coalition that we do not want. Mr. Speaker, also, as you see to determine, realize that the particular, and I know you have expunged from the record, so we do not have a document speaking to the coalition agreement between under the Kenya Kwanza. But I have seen in documents that the coalition agreement says that you cannot move until 3 months are over before the elections. Also, exercise your mind as a seasoned advocate that that time is going to lapse on the 9th of November, which is about 3 weeks to come. Which is about 3 weeks to come. And therefore, it is anticipated, actually, people can move out. It is anticipated that people can move out. Mr. Speaker, yes, Mr. Speaker, we are making our argument and everybody will have the opportunity to make that argument. And Mr. Speaker, find that the requirement to wait for 90 days is unreasonable. Mr. Speaker, under Article 38 of the Constitution, the political rights that are given to the citizens of this country, you are supposed to enjoy them without unreasonable restrictions. Unreasonable, mark the word, unreasonable restrictions. To require us to stay for a particular time when we are not there is an unreasonable restriction, and therefore null and void to the extent that it is unreasonable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to support that we are in Kenya Kwanza, and that is where our numbers should be counted.
The Member of Parliament for Mandera North.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the debate.